We are living in a world where our society is changing every 30 to 40 years. It's crazy to live in America and customers are paying an extra 15 to 20% of the bill for tipping in restaurants. And what's more mind-blowing is that this is normal for us, and we allow this to happen. Tipping is usually seen to be optional or voluntary, but nowadays it's considered to be expected. For these employees in a restaurant, the cost of paying a livable wage now relies on the customers, and this puts the pressure on them instead of the employer. So what are we tipping for exactly? Isn't the job of these workers in a restaurant supposed to be to serve food and drinks? Why are we expected to pay extra for them to do their job properly? And this is a requirement from their employer. Tipping should be for workers that provide an above and beyond level of service. I just feel that if we are expected to tip, we should expect a level of service. So here is a quick story that I'd like to share. I recently went out to dinner with some of my friends at a steakhouse, and the bill came out to about $500 total. And since we're at a higher end restaurant, I feel obligated to tip at least 20% of the bill. The service was great, but nothing over the top. And here is some quick math for you guys. 20% or 1/5 of 500 equals to $100. Now, doesn't that amount seem absurd to you? Because the dinner was already expensive enough, and adding on the tip could have paid for an extra person or two. This is something that not a lot of people bring up, but what's interesting is that the food industry is not the only industry that provides service. What about the hospitals, the police department, fire department, etc.? These places can and will provide good service, but they are never expected to receive a tip. Are they even allowed to accept tips? When I ride on an airplane and the flight attendants provide me excellent service, there was never a mention in tipping for the service. So if you guys seen my previous shorts and videos that I posted, you would know that I traveled to 3 different countries in the year of 2023. And since all these places were located in Asia, they all share a similar tipping culture. Starting off with Thailand, you can get a nice plate of pad thai on the streets from anywhere between $1 to $2 US. Now subtract all the ingredients to make this dish, and then subtract the expenses for paying your workers. Whatever's left in that amount equals the profit that they made. And I don't have exact numbers for you guys because I do not own a restaurant in Thailand, and I know the living expenses in Thailand are not comparable to America, but just the ratio of cost of living is still significantly smaller than how it is in America. And guess what? They do not expect a tip for their services. Eating in Vietnam was the same thing too. Buying a hot bowl of pho on the streets for anywhere between $1 to $2, and there is never a tip expected. Japan is a little bit more different because everything is a lot more expensive compared to Thailand and Vietnam. And the cost of living is actually a lot more as well. But what's crazy is in Japan's culture, they don't even accept tip as well. Like what? And during my time spent in Japan, I got nothing but the best service anywhere and everywhere that I went to. Believe me, the level of service is not comparable to anywhere else in the world. And if you disagree with this, please leave a comment down and share a place that is way better. So now we must ask ourselves, what can we do? I know many people will argue that if you cannot afford tipping, then you should not go out to eat. And this statement is pretty reasonable, but if it is true, this actually forced me to cook way more at home. And I also attempt to cook more of my favorite cuisines myself rather than going out and buying it. Just be sure to weigh out the expenses and the time for preparation to see if it's all actually worth it. I also eat at home a lot because I like to have control of the nutrition that I intake. And I actually consider myself a huge foodie, and I love to go out and eat good food, but I make it a very special occasion if I do so, or if I do not have enough time to prepare at home. Just imagine this though. If every single person in the world stayed at home to eat for 3 days out of the week, restaurants would be losing so much business. But in life, if there's a cause, there will always be an effect, and the outcomes might change for the worse, such as there could be less operating hours for customers, or also the prices on the menu can also go up higher. If the prices are not reasonable though, customers will not be showing up and the businesses would shut down overall. Not everyone is able to cook food in a kitchen, so I understand that you may need to eat at a restaurant, but there is always an option to order your food for takeout. Even nowadays, when you're ordering for takeout, there is a section for you to choose whether or not you would like to leave a tip. And they pressure you by giving you different percentages for options and also a custom tab for choosing your own amount. Sometimes they don't even have a selection for choosing no tip. You can also eat at places that do not pressure you into leaving a tip. This is just a biased opinion, but I love In-N-Out Burger and I can eat it for every meal, probably for the rest of my life. And In-N-Out always provides great service, and they don't even have an option for you to leave a tip. And they're also a fast food chain restaurant. You all must realize that as a customer, you have the power to choose. You can choose whether you want to go out to eat or not. You can choose where you're going to eat. Choose where you are spending your hard-earned cash. And lastly, this idea ties into what I said in the beginning, but it is to make eating out a luxury. You should be grateful to be going out to eat at a restaurant and paying for someone's service to care for you. A lot of people are unable to afford this, and this forces them to eat cheap quality foods that is very unhealthy for them. And this also makes your experiences when eating out a lot more enjoyable, because normally you should be the only one preparing your own food. Unfortunately, this is now normal to us and our society has accepted it. I'm not saying tipping is a bad thing, but I do feel a tiny bit uncomfortable when I am tipping a very high amount for just average service. How do you guys feel about this expectation of paying extra for gratuity when tipping is normally an expression of appreciation? Now, when customers leave a small tip or no tip at all, I see restaurant workers get angry and chase them out the door. And there is also this very funny concept of workers stereotyping certain races when they walk into a restaurant and prefer not to serve them because they think that they are horrible tippers. Thank you so much if you have made it to the end of this video. My name is Albert, and please help support my channel if you have enjoyed this video. It doesn't cost anything except a few seconds of your time, but I can guarantee that your return on investments will pay off. I wish you the best and stay tuned for more content.